So in this section, I'm going to talk a little bit about the solution I came up with to the problem of universities not adapting fast enough. So I'm just going to, there we go. All right, so when I thought about this, the first thing I thought about was, well, what's the current understanding of the problem? And the rhetoric going around at the moment, and this is end of 2013, the rhetoric going around at the moment is universities must change if they are to survive long term. The first assumption is we rely on student enrollments, which 80% of universities do. We don't have big endowments, most universities don't. The one I work at doesn't. Assumption two, if students stop coming, then we are likely to fail. So based on these two assumptions, and this is just two, you could write out 100. Based on these two assumptions, I came up with the following divergences. Different ways of seeing the problem, or different ways of expressing the problem. First of all, universities have to establish unique selling points if they are to survive. So this is standard strategic management theory. Universities have to establish a unique selling proposition, a unique selling point if they are to survive. So this is a crisis, but an opportunity. This is not a crisis, rather, but an opportunity. Universities can seek out niche markets and make their unique and interesting courses a point of difference. Divergence 2, redefine and market alternative roles for university and society. Universities are not in the course delivery business. This is one of the problems of this current thinking. Universities are in the education business. There are many different ways to deliver education. If this is truly a crisis, what other roles might there be for lecturers to deliver courses? We could have community service, consultants, so on, education seminars. Revenue can come from many different sources. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of lecturers are paid, say, $100,000 a year. A senior lecturer gets that in Australia. If we took that 100,000 and we just tried to find revenue models, I'm sure we could do it. Divergence 3, remove lackluster universities and group courses around elite institutions. I don't necessarily like this, but this would mean having 8 universities in the whole world responsible for each area. And the only people that get to do face-to-face education are the people who can afford to go to those institutions. Everyone else does courses online, and it articulates that way. So, for example, you might have economics at Harvard, English at Oxford, and so on. The last one, so that fourth one might be a little bit controversial. Although I picked the fourth one, which is to convert to an iTunes model for an education system where students can pick and choose degrees from multiple institutions. So universities create strategic alliances to deliver the best possible degree online. Face-to-face continues, so we have in-class interaction as well because people will nominate for that, but that has a variety of models now. You can literally go to a university and just do a course and pay a little bit and just gradually work your way towards a degree if you want a degree. Universities start offering different styles of courses and stuff like that. I picked 4, though it's unlikely. So I'm going to say out of the 4 that I've come up with, the fourth one is probably unlikely to work. The way that I would design it would be I'd ask a third-party provider like OUA or a non-financial government organisation, an arbitrator to say, look, get these groups together and you offer economics, you offer business and management, and I would group it around the organisations that have the highest teaching ranking in that area. And OUA operates like that. Open Online Australia or Open Learning in the UK or Online Learning in America. It operates this way already. But the problem is it's for profit, and a lot of smaller institutions miss out. So you could have a Bachelor of Business, for example, offered across 7 or 8 institutions, with institutions focusing their talent and skills around the core subjects of their subject area. So it might be management at one institution, might be economics at another. And then the academics in that area also have a research cluster where they can provide research income. And that's the one thing that's missing from this conversation as well. No one's talked about research income. That's another possible divergence and opportunity for universities to look at ways that they can monetize research in a way that's more attractive to lecturers. If they did that, perhaps then the incentives would be different. And lastly, disseminate. I would have a meeting where I would call together the vice chancellors and deputy vice chancellors of everyone in all their institutions, and I'd get them together to sit down to talk about it. And I would, from that meeting, ask for action plans and deliverables. Now, because it's such a crisis meeting, you can assume that from the crisis meeting will come negotiation. So there'll be unequal power here as well to think about. So this may not be the most eloquent solution, but to share the knowledge, I would be talking in a crisis way. I would say, there is the language of crisis, the language of people not being able to do anything or make any difference here. But the bottom line here is that something needs to be done. Okay, so I've highlighted the word understanding, and I just wanted to spend a couple more minutes at the end of this to show you that this is just one example. Well, actually, it's 4 examples of the way to solve these kinds of problems. We look over the framework again, you can see that the current understanding of the problem is universities aren't going to survive. My first point there in the divergence part was that yes, they are going to survive. So I've chosen to see the crisis as an opportunity. Secondly, in the four options there, these are four positive, largely positive options. The third one, not so much, because that means redundancies and some universities will go out of business. I honestly believe that will happen. Some universities will disappear, they'll stop operating. We had a golden period where everybody wanted to come to class, but online learning means that universities must learn to differentiate. So when we group our courses around those, do we want to group it around the elite, or would we prefer a more democratic model where we have the iTunes model that I've got suggested there? So all of these are currently ideas that I've borrowed from contemporary culture. It's actually one that the music industry did. If you think of Spotify as a solution to music piracy, it's working incredibly well. So a subscription model might not be out of the question for universities. But anyway, have a look at the ideas you came up with in the divergence part, and notice this, that when you think divergence or when you think problem, you immediately think solution. And the highlight of this course really is to get you to separate those two out. What I want you to do is to say, I have a problem, I can create any number of creative solutions to that problem that I want to. I don't actually have to go with what everyone else is saying. I can have a different opinion and a different set of ideas and make it work that way. Lastly, design and disseminate, I've just touched on here. Disseminate is probably part of another course on how to share ideas and how to share value with people. But if an idea is useful and it's got enough support, it tends to be implemented. The reason why I've put it here is that a design isn't the big issue. The issue really is dissemination. So if I want to do the iTunes model, I need a platform to make that work, which is not hard to do. This is the modern world. We can knock that up in a week or two. The political agreements and the negotiation part would be difficult. The royalty agreements, the intellectual property agreements would be a problem. But when we share our ideas with people and people agree, ideas naturally spread. It's very often the case that bad ideas spread just as quickly as good ideas. So that's something I wanted to think about. And really, if you are listening to this and you're looking to improve your creative problem solving skills, I would ask you to always have in the back of your mind, how am I going to share this with others? That is a critical learning point. But just to finish off this section of the course, I want you to think about different ways to look at the problem and how those different ways open up new opportunities for seeing solutions. So often what we do when we look at problem solving is that we drill down into one solution, our favorite solution, like what that article does, and says, we're doomed. We may have an opportunity here to create new revenue. We may have an opportunity here to change things and look at new ways of doing things. And that's what I want you to get out of this section. Thank you. Now move on to the next section of the course and do some more learning.